We were talking about crime and punishment. And there's a study that I've cited many times, and it's been a while since I've talked about this. I just got a tweet this morning from someone that cited, and it's a true statement, that we outpace the rest of the world when it comes to mass shootings. It's also the number one leading cause of death among young people is firearms. But what we do in America is odd. If you compare very high crime areas and very average crime areas, I would say there was a study out about the safest places to live in big cities. And what's weird about this is I think there's 15 cities that are listed. Phoenix isn't one of them. It's very odd. 15 major cities are named. Phoenix is the 5th largest city in the country. It's not even in the survey. People believe that Dallas and Boston are the 2 safest places to live. There are other places that people believe are very dangerous, Detroit and Chicago. If you look at the safety of places, you look at in your mind, what are the most dangerous places to live when it comes to guns? LA, Chicago, Detroit, New Orleans. Those would be fair choices, I would say. There are others, but those are pretty fair choices. Look at a place like Phoenix or Dallas, places where the gun laws are very, very lenient, and they're either better rates and easier, less violent crime or no different. So somehow the laws on guns don't seem to be the issue. In my estimation, it's prohibited possessors. And I want to talk about this for a moment and hear me out. I just replied to a tweet from a guy saying, explain this. So I said, I will explain it. This goes back to 2017. This is not right versus left. In 2017, who was president? It was Donald Trump. So this isn't about left versus right. This isn't about Joe Biden and his onslaught. Now, again, he's going to make guns a big part of his campaign because he's losing on the economy and he's losing on the border. So his rallying cry is going to have a lot about stricter gun enforcement. But the existing laws, let's talk about existing laws. It is against the law, and you can be punished and charged as a felon and go to prison for an extended period of time if you are someone that is known as a prohibited possessor, which means that you are not legally allowed to own a firearm. Most of the time it's because you're a convicted felon. In the 2017, that fiscal year, there were over 112,000 denied background checks, meaning that the system worked, that firearms dealers were using the NCIC system, and they were doing criminal background checks on possible purchasers of guns. And the system showed that this person's a prohibited possessor, and they were given a hard no, and they were denied access to firearms. They were told, no, they cannot buy a gun. As a matter of fact, it's against the law to even try to buy a gun when you're a prohibited possessor. 112,000 times that happened in that year in America. Of those, only 10% were referred for criminal investigation, which means about 12,000. Only 12,000 of 112,000 were actually sent for investigation. Of those, less than 10%, so we're looking at about 1,200 or so in the entire country, were ever pursued. So you've got 112,000 people knowing that they're not, and I would say the vast majority of them knew they were not entitled, that were trying to game the system and get around the background check by trying to legally purchase a firearm. They were denied by the system working. Of those, 10% were ever referred for investigation, and of those, 10% were actually ever investigated. That, to me, is the biggest problem here. You can focus on all these other things that limit my rights and limited magazines and take away certain style guns. You've got existing laws that are not being enforced. This was the Trump administration. The same thing is going on now during the Biden administration. This isn't Republican Democrat. This is a systemic problem. We have all of these people screaming for more laws when the existing laws aren't being enforced. So for all of you out there that are gun control enthusiasts, you have to listen to this. You have to listen to this. Instead of screaming about new laws, legitimately, why are you not screaming at the Biden administration? He oversees the ATF. Why are you not screaming at them to first make sure all 112,000 people that try to buy a gun when they know they're not supposed to are fully investigated. And of the ones that made a mistake, they made a mistake. But of the ones that are trying to circumvent the system, why aren't you saying make sure those people pay a heavy price? Don't you think that would put a big dent in this? Because the people that do that, the people that go out, 112,000 people that try to illegally purchase a firearm trying to circumvent the system, do you think they gave up trying to get a gun when the government told them no? Or do you think they went out and they still found another way illegally to buy a firearm? It's one of the cornerstones in Phoenix Crime Reduction Plan is going after prohibited possessors. Start there before you come after me with any more of your laws, before you come after legal gun owners like myself that have never broken the law when it comes to firearms, and thank God probably never will. Why don't you go after the existing laws in those 100? How do you defend that 112,000? That's a systemic problem. That's not an administration problem.